You're listening to The Next Chapter is Hers, a podcast about healing, growth, and becoming the main character of your life. We are your hosts, Hannah
and Heather, sisters, storytellers, and your weekly hype women.
Welcome back, main characters. Welcome back, main characters. Today, we have an amazing guest coming in to talk about everything self-trust, a little bit of money, and the way to kind of get around and believe in yourself again. She's a good friend. We've hung out quite a few times. We might even have some exciting new things in the future coming. So I would love to introduce Brie Sedano.
Hello.
Welcome, Brie.
Brie, how are you doing today?
Best day ever.
Right? We got some tea. It's raining outside. We're cozied up, ready to have a good conversation.
Yeah, I've been enjoying watching your dog get so comfortable.
I know. He'll stay in this position for the whole rest of the time.
Love a lazy dog. They're the best.
We're lucky we don't have any toes underneath them because they definitely start to fall asleep because he does not move.
Yeah. Yeah, but what's better than a dog? Nothing. Money. And we're going to kind of talk a little bit about that today, too.
It's my fate.
So, Brie, you said something to us that kind of stopped me in my tracks. You said, I'm really good at self-trust now, but I didn't used to be. Can you take us back to who you were before you believed in yourself?
Sure. So my road has been a little long. I guess it just depends on how far we want to go back, but
you can go back, start at the beginning. Who are you? What do you do?
Well, professionally, I'm a money coach. I'm a mom. I'm a wife. I've been married a long time now. I think we're 18 years this year being married, and we've been together since we were kids.
So I saw your post the other day. It was so cute.
Oh, yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. So before I really started to work on myself and understand self-trust and all these things, I was the person who was looking for other people's opinions when I had a decision to make. I'd be like, oh, Hannah, let me tell you my story and you tell me what I should do. And then I would call Heather and be like, tell me all the things. What do you think? And I was always looking for this external validation. And I would, the other thing when I didn't trust myself is I was always judging how I was doing things. The level to which this lady can bother herself for no good reason is extraordinary. Even how many hours I work, you should be working until 5 p.m. Why? I got my work done, but I didn't all the way just trust myself to let me be in my process and let things unfold. Also, I had a lot of control issues with life because self-trust and trust with life are kind of, they're related, right? So it's I trust me, but also you have to trust life. And I for sure had some control issues with life. And those were things that I guess where I started from. It was just in a constant state of being bothered by myself and by life. Everything seemed like it was sucking, even though that's not really true.
I feel like that sometimes.
I know some people that should be in this podcast listening.
I agree.
Listening to this whole thing. We're going to send this to you directly.
Yeah. Yeah. It's time to trust ourselves.
For sure. It's way better. You'd be surprised how much your mind shuts up a little bit when you're just hey, yo, I got me. We'll figure this out. Everything's fine. Yeah. And if I eat a shit sandwich on the way, it's part of the thing.
The process.
I am a person who needs to learn things the hard way. I would love to be somebody who could take good advice, but alas, no. Yeah. No. I need to do it the hard way.
You need all the shit sandwiches along the way.
I'm going to eat a shit sandwich to learn how to do it. That's my actual process is I have to learn by trial and error. But my mind, before I trusted myself, was always going to be this is going to suck. Mm-hmm. We're not going to, my mind was always trying to pick the right path to avoid the shit sandwich. But the shit sandwich was what I needed.
Right.
If that makes, so I was just always in this internal state of conflict of needing to eat the shit sandwich to learn my lessons and figure out how to do the thing, and my mind being no, there's going to be a shit sandwich. But no matter which way you go, it's not something bad's going to happen. It's just sometimes I just have to learn things the hard way.
Yeah. I'm the same way. I'm definitely the same way.
For sure.
I think it's the 3 in the human design that's the culprit. I don't know enough about
design.
It. Don't ask me too many questions. That's my one sentence that I think I know. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure if you have the 3 in human design, you're doomed to eat the shit sandwich of learning the hard way.
I'll have to look.
We're going to have a human design episode because I have no idea what you're talking about.
Oh, I love human design. Why do you think self-trust is one of the most underrated superpowers of women today?
So I'm a money coach. I work with clients on money. And one thing I know is if you do not trust yourself fully and completely, you're going to have a real hard time holding money. Like any sort of big money. If you don't trust yourself, you're going to wobble. That money's going to get out of your bank account. So that was where I started to put it together. Like, oh, this lady has like no self-trust. So the pressure of having a lot of potential, money adds a lot of potential. So this is where I started to like really pick it up. Like, holy shit, if you don't trust yourself, like the barriers to getting to your goals become really, really big. And so for me, I kind of learned about self-trust in an internal way, like me trusting myself to hold my own feelings. So most of us don't learn how to like really feel our feelings, right? Like a lot of the people I've worked with or myself, like we just weren't raised by like emotionally intelligent people that always had the time and space for us to hold our feelings when we were little kids.
I agree.
And so we learn like certain feelings are not safe to have. Like if I'm angry, I get in trouble, or if I'm sad, I get a popsicle, but like no actual emotional care, or like if I'm some kind of way, I get sent to my room, or if I'm even like too happy, these bad things happen to me. And so we learn to really not even know how to hold our own feelings.
Right. We close off, we kind of hide away a little bit, and we avoid them.
So when you can't have your own feelings, life becomes really terrifying. Like if you don't know that you can hold your own feelings, the way that you have to go about your life is like controlling life to not serve you these sorts of things that might make you feel this kind of way that you can't handle. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and you avoid things because you may feel those things and you just don't do them. That's a big thing in my life. There's a lot of things I didn't do in my life just because I was afraid of the shit sandwiches, and I have done nothing of value, I don't think, with my life.
All right, that seems super harsh. But all right. I read this book, Existential Kink, it's called. I recommend it to like literally anybody who will listen to me. Carolyn Elliott wrote it, Dr. Carolyn Elliott. And so I started reading this book and I started to realize like my actual inability to be with myself in my feelings was like such a holdback. Like, and it was really like I didn't trust myself to hold myself. And so then I was like getting into avoidance. So I think that for me, that was one of the first really big places where I was like, oh, if you don't trust yourself with your own feelings, like you're going to be in a constant state of control with life, which is one, ineffective, and two, exhausting.
Yeah.
So that was like one of the things that started to shift. So I'm going to tell you guys this story about this time. Like I drove to Pittsburgh. I did ayahuasca. So if anybody doesn't know, ayahuasca is like a hallucinogenic tea that you drink. It's like in a spiritual, community. There was a shaman.
Yeah.
It's like you're going on a spiritual like
it's a controlled environment, basically.
Yeah, also you're hallucinating in a room full of strangers.
Right.
So I'm like, let's just say what it is.
So also out of control.
So a little bit. And I remember I went in there and I was just in such like a state of, I was growing my business and like as we grow our businesses, I feel like all of your own inner
trauma comes forward
for sure. Like, especially as you turn up your ad spend and you start hiring people and like, all of these really big things, and you need to start to be bigger, more, showing up online, the whole thing. And so anyways, I was always just, like I said, controlling and trying to get it right. And I remember like, so I'm high on ayahuasca and she's showing me these things. So like, the spirit of ayahuasca. So she was like, all right, cool. You're trying to figure out which path is the right path. And I was like, please, yeah, just tell me. That's like why I'm here. And she was like, well, if you go down this road, you're going to learn some things that's going to be cool. And I was like, great.
I love cool things.
I will take mental notes to bring back to myself in the morning, And then she's like, all right, this is path 2. She's like, if you go down this road, you're going to learn some things. It's going to be cool. And I was like, okay, great. And then she's like, path 3, you're going to learn some things. It's going to be cool. Now, this conversation went on in this exact same way for what seemed like a very, very long time. And I was like, okay, all right. So no matter what I do, like everything's fine. She's like, basically, yes, everything's fine. She's like, no matter what, you're going to learn some things. It's going to be cool. And so for me that day, I mean, maybe it was the hallucinogenic tea. Maybe it was just this little story, but like something shifted where I was like, all right, well, I don't need to be like holding on so tightly to these outcomes. And like, I was like, I could just back off a little bit and let life unfold. And I can trust myself that I can hold my own feelings. and I can like control my perspectives and I can control my words and I can like, I have myself in these ways. And like, that was what kind of allowed me to trust life, to not, because like when you're so controlling of life and you're trying to get things to be a certain exact way, and it's fine. There's not necessarily anything wrong with it.
But you're probably stressing way more than you should be.
Oh.
Because I 100% fall in this category. Feel like I had a lot of confidence and a lot of self-trust when I first started my business. And then you hit like roadblocks and different things pop up and different things happen that like kind of chip away at your confidence a little bit. And then you start building blocks that you have to like get back over again. I like the idea of, you know, knowing there's several paths in front of me, and depending on which one I take is going to lead me somewhere different. But along the way, I'm going to learn a lesson, figure my shit out. And like at the end of the path, if I don't like it, there's always another path to take.
Exactly. So that was like really like what I started to figure out. And the more that I trust myself, the more my mind shuts up, the happier I am. And just the more that my intuition becomes like loud and clear. You know, for a long time, like I would get into these places of like spinning, this mental, like, I don't know. Does this ever
Yes,
happen to you where your
always.
mind is just like running in circles as fast as it can? And you're like, okay, all right.
Analysis
but like,
paralysis. It's like you have so much going on in your head. You can't make a decision. You can't move through it.
yeah.
You're
And,
just stuck in a spiral.
and I mean, now I don't get stuck there because now I can like recognize that, or I'm like, oh, I just have too much energy in my mind. I just need to, you know, like go for a walk, take a bath, go do something else, like move my energy a little bit. But when I was always trying to control life, like that was my main state. That was where I normally was. And it just made decision making so much harder because I was like trying to take life's turn. You know what I mean? Like I'd be like, all right, I'm going to do this. And then life, I'm going to need you to do it this way, this exact way. I need these many clients to come in this exact pathway. Like I was always, Gabby Bernstein calls it like future tripping, but it's like I was just like being too much with life, and life couldn't ever like surprise and delight me.
Yeah.
I trust that like life is always working out for me. And this has been like a little bit next level. I started doing this like within the last few months, is like, even if something looks like it's not working out, like even, you know, when you're setting the goal and it looks like, you know, it's not going well, I just called it a success anyways. Like I just started being like, oh, this is great. This is a new milestone on my pathway. Like, and cause for me, it was also like when I don't trust life and I don't trust myself, my brain wants to get into problem solving mode. And my brain fucking loves a problem. My brain is like, do you have a problem? I will talk to you about it for as long as we possibly can. We can make problems of the problems. My brain loves a problem.
Yeah.
And
It's
so,
like the angel and the devil on your shoulder, like talking to you, but instead it's like a board meeting of just all your personalities, like solving a problem together.
oh my God. They're into it. But I'm like, okay. But what I realized is like constantly focusing on problems just brings more problems.
Yeah.
You know, and then you're just in this like whole problem consciousness, this whole problem awareness. And like you start looking at yourself with those like problem colored glasses on, and all of a sudden you're a problem to be solved. Your face is a problem. You know, your belly button's not good enough. You're like, your personality sucks. And you're like, okay, all right, self. You know, by the time you go down, I mean, it doesn't take long
by
for
the
you to,
end
like,
of the spiral.
feel like absolute crap about everything.
I guess the question is really like, how did you quiet the noise? Like, how do you quiet the noise?
I think for me, learning to feel my own feelings was the biggest thing. I'm going to share with you a practice, and I also want to just lay out the expectation. I did this probably every day for a period of 15 to 18 months. And it was the best thing I've ever literally done. It's the practice that I can't sell it hard enough. I talk to my clients about it, but it's, you know, there's a little bit of emotional labor. So when it comes to feeling your feelings, all those feelings that we have unprocessed exist in our energy field. And then let's say today life serves me something, you know, where, I don't know, I feel a little conflict about something. Well, if I have a lot of unprocessed conflict, like just in my heart, in my, you know, in my energy field, well, then today that's going to bring up all those past experiences. So now I'm going to, even though like, let's say today Heather and I have a very small conflict about something, just like, you know, just like a regular disagreement about something that's not even a big deal. Well, I might that might pull up all sorts of conflicts
from the past.
Oh, like, yeah, you know what I mean? And so now this situation to me feels like a 10 out of 10 level of intensity, even though like really the situation itself is like a 1 out of 10 level of intensity, but I'm feeling all of those old things.
Right.
Are you guys tracking?
Yeah.
Are you guys with me?
It's almost like built up resentment inside of you that's like now coming forward of like stuff you swept under the rug that
Yep.
is all just being processed.
It could be resentment, though sometimes it's desire, sometimes it's fear, conflict, like, man, like there's a lot of, and when you're holding on to emotions from your like childhood, there's a lot of childhood emotions, which are surprisingly uncomplex. Like sometimes it's just like hatred about something and you're like, or, those feelings that come up when you're just a kid. And so for me, what I did was every day it's not exactly a meditation. You're not like, it's not really about the mind. You start to bring your awareness into your body and you pay attention to the sensations that you find there. And so you just bring your awareness to them and you meet yourself with just loving approval. So instead of being like, oh, I'm mad and I'm so annoyed that I'm mad or I'm guilty that I'm mad or whatever, I'm just like, oh, hey, anger, you're here. Yeah, all right. Your boundaries were crossed or whatever, this did happen, or you did betray yourself, or you did feel these kinds of ways. And I would just let myself feel the feelings. And so like whatever life served me today, oftentimes like when you really feel into it, you would feel all of that back where, all of the stuff from the past. Mm-hmm. And as my emotions cleared up, my mind got quieter, my ability to deal with like my fear of the shit sandwich like basically went away, because I realized that nearly all of my fears were just a fear of a sensation in my body. And like when I started to realize the like literal cost of not wanting to feel my feelings in my business, I was like, this is very silly. Like I'll give you an example just to ground this and make it make sense. So like for the longest time, I would not want to feel rejection. So this made me like a little attached in my sales calls, maybe push a little too hard. So then let's say I offer to work with you and you're like, hey, no, thanks. Like it's not time, or I don't want to, or for whatever reason. Instead of just letting myself feel the sting of that rejection, I would push it away. And so for like a period of days, I would be mentally fighting with you about what an idiot you are and how awesome I am and how much I could help. Like,
yeah,
and
your
so
like ego is like feeding you.
I would be like playing the same situation over and over again. And this could potentially throw me into a funk with my sales for like 2 days, and it might still be costing mental energy even like a week later. And so one day I was like, all right, well, let me just feel the sting of the rejection. So I remember the next day somebody, I'd done a sales call. This lady's like, all right, yeah, like I don't want to move forward. Thanks for all the help, like whatever. And I just let myself feel the sting of that. And I was like, all right. And like, I felt like a flush, kind of come, and like my face got hot for a second. And then I was like, well, all right, carrying on, like literally like straight non-issue. And so from that point on, it was like, all right, well then I'm unattached to my sales calls and I can show up to help you. Or if you don't want to work with me, like I can also just like bless and release. Like it's not all that serious. And what I actually found out was the feeling of rejection is actually not terrible to me. Like it's not something that it was even really worth avoiding. Like I'm like, literally, it's just like a heat that rises. It's like maybe uncomfortable for like 12 seconds and it's all done in like in a minute. And so for me, knowing that I can handle that sensation in my body, like had freed me up. Like I made way more money once rejection, like I could trust myself to be in rejection. I knew that I could care for myself. So that's just like an example of how this kind of played out.
I love that you said bless and release, because that's something that someone said to me a few years ago when I was like clearly holding on to like way too many emotions. And it was one of those things where it was actually my friend Brina who like sat me down and looked at me and was like, just bless and release. Feel what you need to feel and like let it enter the universe, and it's no longer
your
serving
problem.
you. Yeah. If it's no longer serving you, then it's okay to move on. Take that next step, like feel what you need to feel, bless and release.
Yeah. I think that was like the thing that made the biggest difference. Like, in the spiritual, business community and things like that, people always talk about like surrender, like trust and surrender. Like, have you guys heard the level of trust that you need to have in your body to give up control with life it's no joke level, which is funny because sometimes I'll see people that are new on a journey and they're like, I'm just going to surrender. And I'm like, that really what you're saying is I'm just going to not do my work and expect the universe to show up with
deliver.
good results. This is like the number one, like most hilarious thing is sometimes clients will be like, I'm just going to surrender. I'm like, girl, you have not done the work yet. You surrender when your side of the work is 100% done and now it's life's turn to go. Before that, you're just
free falling off a bridge.
You're just sitting around. Like you're just trying to like journal your way to success when like really you just need to like write your posts or do your marketing or like make your sales calls. You know what I mean? Like, so it's just funny because that level of trust and surrender, but that's the place where like a life starts to get so good and so juicy. It was like, but you have to be able to trust life to take care of you.
Yeah.
Which is like basically impossible to do if you can't trust yourself to take care of you.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's like that internal trust. It takes spiritual skill to like get into the place of trust and surrender. But then that's where life gets easy.
Life surprises you a little bit more.
Yeah. And also if you're like working on something, that's the place where exponential results are possible. You know, when we're coming from that like super logical, linear A plus B equals C, you don't see the exponential growth. You'll see linear growth in your business. But there's a level of trust in yourself and a level of trust required to start to get into more of those, you know, that exponential level of results.
I feel like I needed to hear this conversation more than you even know.
I feel like it has a lot of relevant points on the journey that you're making and trusting the decisions that are constantly plaguing you right now. I know over the last couple days you've been in your head a lot about the next steps, your next steps, the studio, the business, the podcast, your move, all those things. And you have been letting that play and run, and you've been fighting it from every angle, and you've been taking every person's opinion and
every person's emotions into play.
I think
that's a lot of work.
Oh, it's so much work.
I think I've been really good in life at mostly trusting myself. I've kind of always been one of those people that's been like, whatever's going to happen is going to happen regardless. And you kind of just have to like take the next step or jump into that thing. My husband likes to think I'm crazy for things like that. Cause I'm like, yeah, let's just go buy a house. He's like, we don't have any money. I'm like, we'll figure it out. Let's just move to Tennessee with Hannah. He's like,
we don't have a job.
We don't have anything in Tennessee. I'm like, so what? Hannah will be there. But you know what it is? Sometimes you do have to just put that trust in yourself. And I think this conversation is going to be really good for your mindset.
Sometimes when I have really big decisions, I just will also look at it from the lens of like, well, what looks like an experience I want to have instead of trying to get it right. That was always the place where then my mind would spin, because I feel like, you know, it's like setting your GPS to a place that doesn't exist. But if you're like, all right, well, which one of these roads which one looks like fun? So like, let's say, you know, you're like, all right, well, I'm going to move. All right. So then I'm going to get the experience of living in Nashville. And that does sound like fun. And there will be good barbecue and like XYZ. And like, if I wanted to also keep something here, does that make sense? All right. Do I want to rent my house and have the experience of being a landlord? Or is that an experience that I'm like, meh, no thanks. Right. So if you kind of start to play with it from like, oh, what experience, when you're really like curating your experiences rather than trying to get it right, I find that for me, that opens up my mind to be like, oh, okay. All right, let's see, what can we do to make this fun or to make this enjoyable or to get the most out of this, rather than being like trying to get it right or wrong. It just adds like a layer of pressure that I find unhelpful.
And most of these decisions we're talking about are not life or death decisions. They're not things that you can't come back from. So, you know, if it sucks,
just take a different path.
Yeah, just change it.
Trust yourself to do something different.
Or say, congratulations, you have a new sucky milestone on your on your list.
Yes.
You ate another shit sandwich.
You have consumed one more shit sandwich.
I think that I struggle obviously with like perfectionism. I struggle with always making the right decision. I am a very analytical person. So like checks and balances and lists and laying things out, like if I do this, this is going to be the outcome. I'm a very critical thinker with stuff like that. But I'm also very aware that there's a lot of things that I cannot control. And I think I've released that part of the control out. of my life. But I do still spiral sometimes into these thoughts of like you said, it's like putting in an address in a GPS that has nowhere to go. So it's just spinning. So what would you say to someone, AKA me, when you find yourself spiraling like that? Because this is common. What would you say to her to get her out of it?
All right. So most women, our culture and society really has a high value on the masculine side of life. The logic, the reason, the effort, the production, the outcomes, all things projective, right? That's a very masculine way of doing things. And that comes at the cost of undervaluing the feminine, the intuition, the body, magic, feelings, emotion, right? Like all of these things fall on the more feminine side. So when we have an overabundance of our life force energy in our mind, we have enough energy for our mind to create labyrinths and to create obstacle courses and to essentially be able to have enough energy to create the environment for a spin. So if I was telling you what to do, I would say you have to learn how to get the energy out of your head and back into your body. And I would tell you to practice that. Like I would set an alarm on your phone a couple times a day and just be like, where's all my energy? And you'll start to notice, like, so if too much energy is in your head, your feet could be cold and you wouldn't even notice. You could be like holding it, if you have to pee for an hour or two and not even notice. Like if you've had a day where you literally forgot to eat,
you're disconnected
every day.
That's a good indication that you have too much energy in your mind and not enough of your attention in your body. So at first that would be a practice of just learning how to get the energy out of your body. And then it would be something when you're noticing there's enough of yourself is there to because now you're adding enough life force to your mind for your mind to be like, well, we got all this extra juice here. Let's make an obstacle course. This will be fun. So if you start to move your energy back into your body, come from it, that's the place where then your mind is empty enough to receive an inspiration and your body has enough energy in it for you to receive an intuition, right? And so inspiration is going to be, it's like a little divine download. And then you'll have like enough energy in your body to be like, do it this way. Or like, put this down, go get a cup of coffee. And like, sometimes it's those sorts of things where like your intuition can take you to the exact right place at the exact right time, right? Intuition is a very funny language because it never makes sense to the mind. So if you have too much energy in your mind's going to shut that shit down like immediately. It's going to be like, you want to go get coffee? Well, you're a lazy bitch. You have 3 more things to do before we were even going to get up to pee. And you think we're going to take ourselves to Starbucks? Absolutely not. And you're like, okay, all right. Like, and this is where I'm talking about like that, like the self-trust where the mind sometimes is so focused on getting a result and getting it done and doing it this way that sometimes we don't even trust like our own process, right? Like, I'll give you as an example. I had a client once who, she's a night owl. She works at night. Her best work hours are from like 6 until 10. That's like her maximum level of productivity. And one day I'm coaching her and she's like, oh, I don't do it. Like, I'm not doing it right, blah, blah. And she's like, I take a nap every day. And I'm listening and I'm like, I'm not sure what the problem is. Like, what's the problem? She's like, well, I'm not doing it. Like, I should be working these hours. And I'm like, who told you that? Like, why do you think that? Yeah. And she's like, oh, I don't know. That's just like what I thought. And I was like, no, your work, your golden hours are in the afternoon. Like, I wake up real early. My golden hours are in the morning. If I tried to work at 6 o'clock, nothing good is happening. But if you try to work in the morning, nothing good's happening. That's not your time. So I was like, just trust that that's the time for you to work. Just clear that out. Why would you try to, like, have you tried to work on the time that you're not supposed to be working? It's super frustrating. Nothing gets done. It takes you 12 hours to what could have taken 1 hour to get done.
That's why I wasn't ready when you got here. And I'm raising a daughter just like that. I slept over Hannah's house last night because I was like, I know this sounds really ridiculous, but to be like ready to like go at 11 o'clock in the morning sounds daunting.
Oh my word. All right. And so it's like basically the later half of my work day.
Yeah.
But I go to bed probably at the same time your toddler does.
Probably not. Her
Probably
toddler
not.
goes to bed at 11 o'clock at night.
Oh my God. No, I'm already 6 hours into my sleep. No,
Oh my
just
God.
kidding. Probably like 3 hours.
Yeah, you and I feel like are on the same schedule. I normally try to like crawl into bed around like 9 o'clock latest, pass out, say goodnight, whatever. Wake up at like, I don't know, 7:30ish is like my normal.
It might be a little earlier on both sides, but
Yeah.
But where I'm going with this is like, that's all of those ways are fine. People will be like, oh, you're a morning person. Like, I've achieved some great feat of like reality. And I'm like, yeah, I just wake up early. Like, I've achieved nothing. I'm just set for this way.
Right.
You know what I mean? But stuff like that, like these are the places that we try to do it to this standard that somebody else set and ignore ourselves. Like it's super insidious how many ways we're trying to set ourselves up to a standard that has nothing to do with what we want, how we work best, how we're smartest, what's most efficient for us, what would make us happy. Like,
it's like fighting societal expectations in just a different way, like in your mind.
Yeah, like a lot of the societal expectations are really only a problem because you internalize them. Basically all of them.
Yeah. Damn.
So not only do you help women trust themselves, but you also help them get over money blocks. So tell us a little bit about that, because we could all use a little bit more money in our life.
Yeah. So my business is Cash Confident, and I've been working with women on money since 2013. I started like selling stocks and bonds and mutual funds. And what I found was I was working with clients who are smart, successful, and honestly, people who are making a lot of money. And nobody was ever coming to see me like, oh, Brie, I have so much extra money. Help me diversify my portfolio. Like, people were like, girl, I got credit cards from my first marriage and I'm about to leave this third marriage.
Yeah.
Like, or my kids are about to go to school and I'm still paying on my own student loans. Or I make $500,000 a year and have $400 in my savings account. Like, what's going on? And so I started working with people in their money. I started with budgets, and that does not work for the vast majority of people. This is ineffective. It's a planning tool. It doesn't really work for like execution. And so I started really working with people on their habits and their mindset and the emotional intelligence. And as time went on and the more time and energy and money I invested into like my coaching skills, it started to get, a little bit more weird and woo and more on like the energetic side of things. And so in my business, so sometimes I'm working with women who just need help to actually like have a healthy relationship with money and like literally get their shit together.
Yeah.
Like a very like literal practical, like which money goes where, how does this work? How do I get out of credit card debt? Like,
I need you.
Literal, like honestly, most people,
Most women do.
Most people do. So I have offers around that. And then for my business clients, people are coming to see me and they already have hard skills. They already know how to sell. Their marketing's already set. They already know how to deliver. I don't work with clients on that sort of thing. Like, you would never come see me and be like, I'm a photographer. How do I take better pictures? I would never answer that question. Where I'm seeing things is when women when they're growing their businesses, but it's like they've tried strategy after ads manager, after tactic, after, sales process, and they've reworked things and they're still not making the money that they want. They're still not there. Then usually that's when people come see me, and then we work on getting their identity to be big enough to hold the things, getting their emotional range, which we were just talking about, getting their self-trust to be in place, so that way she can be who she wants to be and have what she wants to have. But for most of us, that requires like a massive teardown of a lot of like belief structures, judgments, old patterning. Like, most of the time there's a lot of disassembling that needs to be done in our psyches to be able to rebuild at the size, like for whatever it is that we want. So it depends on where people come see me. So, and also like I have a book, I have a podcast. I'm working with women on the entirety like of a financial journey, all the way from like, how do I pay off this credit card, all the way to like, how do I go from 6 to 7 figures, or 7 figures to 8 figures?
I'm admittedly pretty bad with money. Kind of just spend until my credit card or my debit card says you can't spend anymore, and I'm like, okay, I get paid in 3 days.
Oh my God.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
Okay.
That gives me a little bit of anxiety. That's probably why I'm a little bit better with money than her. But I'm definitely that person now where I'm like, okay, I really want to take my business from 6 figures to 7 figures. And I'm working through money blocks in my own business right now. I'm working on self-trust in my own business and trying to kind of unlearn what I have learned, right? So the other day, I'll give you a quick backstory. During an episode with a friend of mine, Terry, she is a body image activist, and she really helps women get out of their heads when it comes to self-love and body and all that stuff. One of the things that she brought up was a struggle of her own that helped her kind of full circle the whole body acceptance, and it was a money block. And she had said to us that she had a money block because when she was growing up, at a very young age, her father would talk poorly about people who had lots of money. So in her mind, she internalized that and basically said, I don't deserve to make money. I don't deserve to be rich in the future, or I don't deserve
Or not,
wealth.
I don't deserve, I don't want to, because I don't want to be this kind of person
Right.
that my father projected
Right.
to be.
So that was one of the things that we had talked about in Terry's episode very briefly. And I feel like I was able to kind of take that and, again, internalize it a little bit and just kind of be like, oh, you know, you're right. I would be around friends or family, and they would look at somebody who was like posh and rich and carrying things. And it was, oh, why do they need those expensive bags? Or why do they need this? And why do they need to flaunt their money? And it's like, wait a second. So like a light bulb literally went off for me just last week where I was like, that is a money block in my own brain of either I don't deserve it or I don't want to be put in this category of having those things. So do you have any advice for anybody who has money blocks in that sense?
So one is our mind creates the structure of our reality. So I'm going to explain to you the difference between like beliefs and judgments real simple so you guys can follow. So I want you to think about belief structures. So beliefs provide both structure and limitation to reality, the same way this wall provides structure and limitation to this house. So there's the structure here. And so if the structure is where you want it to be, it's great. Now, if we had another wall right here, it wouldn't make sense. And one of those walls would be a limitation. Are you tracking?
Yes.
All right. Judgments are more about how we behave in our reality. So judgments are also mental structures, and human beings like to be on the right side of our own judgments. Judgments help to keep us safe, either physically, socially, or emotionally.
Yes.
So like, let's just say you were thinking about, I don't know, taking a walk down 84 for no reason.
That's a highway here in Connecticut.
Oh, that's a highway. Your better judgment is going to be like, we're not doing that. That's a bad idea.
You're going to get hit by a car.
You're going to get hit by a car. So that judgment is going to keep you safe. And if you were to see somebody walking on the highway, you're going to question their judgment, right?
Right.
Are we tracking?
Yes.
Okay. So that's physical safety. Almost none of my work is about physical safety, right? So it's usually the social safety or the emotional safety. So emotional safety is going to be like, if I'm not allowed to feel anger in my own body because anger's on the wrong side of my judgment, I'm going to very likely people please, which is funny because people pleasing, like the good girl and the independent woman, will create two sides of a judgment that creates a really smushed situation. But you can also be in a double bind with your own judgments. And in the good girl and independent woman, these two mindsets will fuck up your capacity for being healthy and happy for your entire fucking life. Like those two things. So the good girl is going to be, people pleasing, doing all the things, putting everybody else first, martyrs, right? All of that. And then the independent woman is not asking for help. She's doing it all on her own. She can't delegate. Yeah. And so most of us have some combination, and it's really just like from the time that we were born.
Yeah.
Right. Like, cause like my mom for sure was like, you need to go to school. You can't just like be dependent on a man. Right. So like but on the other side, like my grandmother was much more on the good girl. And so like just generationally, like the way that these things happen. So the emotional safety. So if I'm not allowed to feel certain feelings and feel safe about it, I'm going to, avoid situations to not be on the wrong side of my judgment and in those feelings. And social safety is, who do I need to be like socially accepted? Who do I need to be like socially safe? Right. So like, for example, it's not okay. It would be on the wrong side of our judgment for me to walk down the street and take a lollipop from a baby. Now, in the big scheme of things, taking a lollipop isn't really that big of a crime, but it would be That would be super on the wrong side of people's judgments. You look horrified right now. She's like looking at me like, why would you say such a terrible thing? So we're going to have a very hard time taking actions that would put us on the wrong side of our judgments. Mm-hmm. So when we're coming up and we're learning about our money mindset, we pick up the vast majority of how we perceive money before we're even like 10, 11 years old. All right. And so we're going to have also layers that conflict. So we're going to get messages from our moms, our dads. Oftentimes that will conflict. Our more extended family, our grandparents, cousins, aunts, uncles, things like that. Our schools, our religious communities, TV, radio, and we start to get a little bit further out. So a lot of times people have a lot of judgments around money that conflict with each other. So most of the time, when we would have to be on the wrong side of our judgment to do a thing or to have a thing, it will create a lot of internal conflict and we won't actually want it. So when I'm working with clients, that would be what I'm looking for. So what your friend experienced, for her to have a lot of money, she was going to be on the wrong side of her family's judgment, and that's socially unsafe. Right. So most of the time when you really look at those things up close, you realize that most of the time they're just not true. Right? Like, so I bet that she could probably actually have a lot of money and her dad would also be okay with that. But honestly, for sometimes that's not true. And sometimes for you to have the things that you want, you actually sometimes need to leave whole relationships or relational dynamics behind, which is all. And I just want to point that out because sometimes that's part of the road and we have to make our choices about that. Right. So for her to have the kind of money that she wanted to have, she would have to essentially outgrow her family of origin, which does create a sense of unsafety. All right. So learning to see ourselves of judgments, and then there's mental processes to take down a judgment. It's not that hard to do once you can see the judgment and you can see what it costs you.
Right.
The mental processes themselves are not that hard. The other thing about deserving is another thing that you talked about. And that's almost like the size of how much you can hold, right? So if somebody feels undeserving of something, chances are they're not going to be able to hold it very long. Worthiness and deserving is a thing that I've coached on for a while. And for a long time, I would coach women on their sense of worthiness. Like, I'm like, you're worthy because you are. Like, it's done. There's nothing right. to discuss. Like, there's nothing to discuss. You're worthy because you are. And then that, I wasn't really seeing that being like absorbed.
It was like hitting the block. It wasn't.
Yeah. Because it's just like, most of us will even have conditions on our own sense of worthiness, right? Mm-hmm. So it's like when we're a little baby, we're just like immediately loved. But then like you start to be a toddler and now you know that like if you're a certain kind of way, you get more love and attention. If you're a different kind of way, you get less love and attention. And if you do this, your mom is proud of you. But if you don't do this, your mom's mad at you. And so you start to add conditions of who you need to even be in your own sense of love and belonging. All right. So this is how I'm just kind of giving the psychological framework of how these things happen, because when we can like understand it, a lot of times it's like, oh my God, it's like this one story that happened when I was 4 years old. And it
has stuck with me my entire life.
Yeah. And it's like ruining my life. And you're like, the only thing that happened was my grandmother wouldn't let me finish spelling the word electricity. Yeah. Right. Like, I was trying to show her my spelling bee word and she just wasn't having it that day. Like, it's literally those sorts of things and sometimes they're bigger, but a lot of times it's just really small shit because humans, like, we make meaning on things. So then I started coaching people on being hilariously unworthy. Right. And so I'll tell you the story. So one day I was driving, I was going to Boston, and the sky is just the most cotton candy, beautiful sky. And I'm like listening and I'm singing songs and I'm just having this time by myself. And I was like, oh my God, what could I have even done to like deserve this beautiful sky, the sunset that I'm just so like graciously receiving the beauty of this world. And I like laughed because I was like, nothing. Like, I'm like, and then my mind was like, oh my God. So I was like, all this air you've ever breathed, what have you done to deserve it? And I'm like, nothing. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm so unworthy of this air. And yet, like, here I am
breathing it in
full receptivity of it. And I'm like, what have I done And I'm like, what did I ever do to deserve like a swim in the ocean? Like that ocean has been there a bazillion years. And I started to just realize like how much of my idea of worthiness is just like this kind of just like ego bullshit of just meeting my own conditions, right? And it's like so much of what's already there and good in life, done nothing to earn, to deserve, to be worthy of. Like, look at us. We have these bodies. Our parents had a time and we get a whole body. You know, it's like, and
my daughter's parents did not have a time and got a body. My daughter's parents had an IVF round times 3 and got a body.
But she's worthy of it.
Yeah.
Still, at the end of the day.
Yep. And so when I was like, all right, so then I was just like, all right, let's just like be with how hilariously unworthy we are and just be in gratitude and just like open receptivity for all of how good this is and just being unworthy of it. Right. And I did notice that landed a little bit better for clients. And then I kind of came to this new place like fairly recently around realizing that like we each, like in our soul, we have this little divine spark that lives within us, right? And so, you know, all of like the major religions will say like, all right, like the soul, like we're made in the image and likeness of the divine, right? And so then I was like, well, who the fuck am I to ever think that if my soul is calling for something that I should deny it? Like if my soul is like, girl, let's plan a retreat and go to Hawaii. And I'm going to be like, oh, it's too expensive. Like, I'm going to deny the divinity within me this experience because I won't shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of like my progression on how I taught worthiness. And like, I think just learning how to like really feel into like the sense of like, oh, there's like divinity that lives in here. Like, we're all just these little divine creatures just playing on this plane. Like we get to play in earth. We get to wear cashmere sweaters and get our pictures taken and have fun. But like the idea that I would deny myself anything that I want, to me, like it just started to make less sense.
I'm going to use that on my husband next time I want something. Like my divine being inside me wants this. How can you deprive me of my divine need?
But it also it all just goes right back to self-trust. It's literally everything that you have said has just led right back to self-trust.
Yeah, but also so another thing, so on deserving. So deserving is more of a cocktail of conditions that will satisfy your mind, right? So it's like, what do you need to really deserve a thing? And depending on what it is, you'll notice that cocktail would be different. So sometimes when I'm working with clients, most of the conditions will be untrue and we can just like remove them. And sometimes it's literally just giving yourself the permission to have or want. It's as easy as that. Like it's as easy as to just imagine if somebody was like, hey, can I go to the movies? And you're just going to grant them permission. And you'd be surprised at how many people are actually talking to you to ask your permission for something. Pay attention. See what people, when you really look at like a lot of the conversations you have, a lot of your friends are just asking you for your permission to do something because they just needed it, right?
Yeah.
It's just a little pattern of just like, it's just sticks with us
Validation
from
almost.
like childhood.
Yeah.
Yeah, right? Because we used to have to ask to go to the bathroom in class and be like, can I go to the bathroom? And we would need permission to take action, which is like fair enough when you're a kid because kids, they want to eat things that aren't food. They want to go places that are dangerous. Like, they want to get into pools that still have the cover on them. You know what I mean? Like kids want to do some real stupid shit. So they need that permission. So that way we could like look out and make sure they're not going to accidentally die.
Right. But then our full frontal lobe is developed and we can hopefully make better decisions.
So to answer your question, so like, I don't really love the term money blocks because we just have to be very careful. Because once you start to believe, oh, I have money blocks, well, now you're going to have to pay me to take them down. All right. So I like to be much more gentle with the language that we use. Mm. So sometimes we'll have judgments that will just prevent us from taking action or from having a thing or making us wrong for having a thing, which we never want to be in that position. Because it will create so much internal conflict that it will be very difficult to get to our goals. And even if we do get to them, it's going to feel bad. The worthiness, I think we have to work on like the soul level and just like connecting. Again, that's something it's an embodied thing. It's something you're not going to think your way into. You have to feel your way into it. it's the other side. It's the more of an embodied thing, I think is the best way to feel into the worthiness. And then the deserving is really just the permission to have the things, the permission to like, to claim it, to have it, to own it, to be it. You know what I mean? So it's just, you have to give that to yourself, right? And if you have to go and always be looking for external permission, that's a place where there's self-trust. So you asked you asked what sounded like a simple question, but when I really like coach people, those are the things that I'm looking at separately, because in terms of where the solution is in our mind or our body, and where like the solutions are very different, even though the question kind of sounded the same. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I'm glad you went that in depth with it, because you kind of crawled into my soul enough to kind of show me several different things that you can work on, right? Like, it's not just like a simple answer, because if it was a simple answer, none of us would have these issues. But it's like you were able to go in depth enough where it opened it up for me.
Honestly, so much of what erodes that sense of self-trust is just the self-judgment. It's just like, oh, I should be different. I should do it this way. I should work this many hours. Like, I mean, the level to which like people come see me to solve problems, and I'm like, well, what's actually wrong here? Like, could you just trust yourself that you're going to get your work done? Right? Like yesterday, a client of mine who I love dearly, and she's like, I'm just procrastinating. And I'm like, okay, but are you getting your work done? She's like, yeah, I always get it done, but like at the last minute. And I was like, well, could you just trust yourself that you're going to get it done and then do it at the last minute?
Yeah, like, trust your process.
Like, could you just do that? Like, she was like, the thing is like, I bother myself so much enjoying my day that I can't enjoy my day. So I'd rather have my work done so that way I could stop bothering myself. That was really the issue. You hear the difference?
Yeah.
So it was more like when my work's not done, I don't trust myself. So my brain is just, and I ruin my day, and then I get my work done, but now I didn't even get to enjoy my day.
Yeah.
So are you guys kind of picking up what
I'm
doing? So it's like, it's the judgment, it's the self monologue, it's the judgment that's stemmed in like, oh, I don't trust myself to do it. But I'm like, this woman is incredible. Like when she says like, I'm like, but don't you get your work done? Like I trust her to get her work done.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, you're getting your work done. Like her business, we've been working together a while. Her business, she's fucking doubled. Her business has doubled. That's twice as much money. And it hasn't even been that long. We still have quite a bit of a contract to work together. She's been a client of mine before. And I'm just like, there's not a problem here. Stop it.
Do you find that a lot of the women that come to you, or the women that have these kinds of blocks that you're talking about, these like inner self-conflicts, are a lot of those women on the neurospicy plane? I'm finding that like as I'm listening to you talk, that like my inner ADHD, spectrum-y, spicy brain is thinking of ways that I could mask my way into or out of these like conflicts and situations, or that like my, the running wheel in my head that doesn't stop is like contributing to some of these things. I don't even know if that came out like a question.
Okay. So let me just make sure I got it right. So are you asking if people with ADD or neurospicy things can also make these adjustments? Is that what you're asking?
I'm asking if yes. And is it different? Do you find that there are additional steps you need to take?
So the thing is everybody's mind works different. And so when I'm working with clients, what might work for your mind might not work for your sister's mind. Like, for example, everybody's got a different level of like visual versus auditory, how they learn, or other things. So I've worked with many people with ADD, and I've had a couple people on the spectrum that I've worked with, and we just have to figure out what works for your mind. We always want to be working with what's naturally strong. Like we always want to be playing ourselves to our strengths, even in our self-development. So oftentimes when I'm working with clients, sometimes like the processes that I work, let's say for judgments, for example, I have a few different ways that I work with clients on that. So if somebody's like, done a little bit of personal development work, what I'm going to say is I'm going to say hop over the judgment and be both right now. And this will work for something that's not traumatic. If you have a judgment that's steeped in trauma, we would not do this particular thing. So let's just say greedy and generous, for example. So most people are like, would be happy to be generous. They don't want to be greedy, which is interesting because there's actually not a word to receive without expectation of exchange, but giving without expectation of exchange has a word. All right. Yeah. So I just want to point that out because greedy and generous, the word greedy has all sorts of negative connotations, but they're not exactly opposites. So anyways, so sometimes we could just hop over, right? So just own it for a second and we'll just see if this works for you, right? So just be like, I'm greedy, and then see how it lands in your body, how you feel.
I feel uncomfortable.
So
immediately like hot, like tightness in my chest.
So sometimes we can get people to hop over the judgment and just admit to being both. So like, I'm generous and I'm greedy, both. And when you see that would put you in balance, you'll feel that discomfort. I call it a naughty thrill, right? It's like
a naughty thrill.
The naughty thrill. But sometimes that process won't work, and we have to balance it out. So we have to look at all the ways that, the upsides of this side and the downsides of this side and the downsides and the upsides and the costs and benefits of being in balance. So that way your mind can more get a whole picture of it. And so where I'm going with this is in working with clients, no matter where you're working from, you can work with your mind. It's just really figuring out like how your mind needs to be worked with, right? So like one of my mentors who I love, my mind is more cooperative than most of her clients. So sometimes sometimes she wants to bypass the mind. But for me, I'm like, actually, my mind cooperates with all of this work. And my mind being abreast of what we're doing actually works better for me, right? But like for most of her clients, bypassing, if the mind was less helpful, then she's got methods to bypass more of the the chatty part of the mind. So it just depends. I hope that wasn't like so long of an answer, but I'm just like,
no.
Everybody's mind is different, and you have to learn to work with your mind to get your outcomes in a way where you can essentially be kind to yourself. And also, like, from my experience, people with ADD, their minds are not deficient in anything. They just need to work different. They just need to work different. There's no actual deficiency of anything. And the same thing with people on the spectrum. It's just like they need to work with themselves in the truth of how that's going to work. They can't be using somebody else's recipe for how to like do anything or do most things.
We are absolutely going to need a second episode. We are going to definitely have you back on the podcast again, because I feel like that whole conversation was magical, and we only touched upon like self-trust. And I mean, we touched on so much.
Yeah. I'm mind blown.
Yeah.
Thanks, ladies. It's a joy to be here. I hope your people benefit from some of these things.
Absolutely. Now, do you want to tell us what is next in your chapter?
Oh, what's going on? So last year I published a book. So actually the book is kind of like the big thing. So it's called Cash Confident, Practical Money Management for the Modern Woman. And this is like the quintessential, like, get your shit together. And everything that I go through in that book is tested with real life humans. And it breaks a lot of the conventional money wisdom down. Is why it doesn't work is most of the time it's psychologically incongruent to the way that like human beings actually operate. So like the math will math, but then the plan won't work. It's available where books are sold, right? You can go Amazon, Barnes & Noble's, Target, places like that. So right now, actually, we're working on scaling. So I'm turning up my ad spend and doing all sorts of things there. But you can find me online. I'm Cash Confident Community on
Facebook, right?
Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and Cash Confident Community is also the name of my podcast, which is available where the podcasts are. It's like a lot. It sounds like a real lot when you say it all out loud.
We'll have all the links at the bottom of this.
Oh,
too,
God.
So
right.
people can find you.
Yeah, great. Yeah, so people can find me wherever. But I mean, really, if you put a search Cash Confident Community into a Google search, you'll find all the places that I am.
That's awesome.
Ah,
Thanks.
thank you so much for today.
Thank you, Brie.
It was my joy to be here.
And
Thank
we
you.
might have that fun and exciting adventure coming up.
I love an adventure.
A little photo retreat for portraits and branding sessions with some money talk with Brie in Barcelona, maybe.
Maybe.
We'll see what happens. But yeah, thank you so much for today, Brie.
Oh, it was my pleasure. It was a joy to be here.
We will talk to you guys all soon. See you next time, main characters.
Bye.
A quick blessing before we go. May your mirror be kind, your coffee be strong, and your confidence slightly delusional.
You are the main character, the muse, and the movement.
We'll see you next chapter, babe.